All right, folks, here we go. Welcome back again to the solo show. And we're going to talk about this thing. So this is his baby. So when he was, how old were you? 18? 17? 17. So he'd been working as an apprentice in the PMG for about 18 months and been a car head. He had an itchy pocket that was full of cash and wanted a car, and he was going to buy a two-door Cortina.
Two-door 220 Cortina.
And turn it into a GT. You're going to
turn into a GT.
Because you couldn't buy a two-door GT Cortina.
Couldn't buy a GT Cortina.
There you go. His brother came home from school or wherever one day because his brother's a couple of years younger than him, and he brought home a very famous copy of Sports Car World that had a white Mark 7 bowl on the front of it. It was Rob Luck's story, and it was like the public release of the car, and the car was actually owned by the bowl factory. And Wal saw this thing on the front cover, and what did you think to yourself, Wal?
Fuck a Cortina.
Yeah, I could have one of these. So within a couple of weeks, he was down at the bowl factory. He was actually down there on show day in September 1967. His father took him down there to go and have a look at it. And Wal had already made his mind up. He was going to buy this thing no matter bloody what. He's going to buy a kit. And he bought it as a full option kit. Body, chassis, glass, trim, bonnet hump. If you wanted to put, because these were the 6-cylinder Holden ones, and they had a bonnet hump. You could option it with a bonnet hump down this side for downdraft carbs on them. What else? All sorts of suspension. That's right, modified suspension, and was
steering rack, steering column,
steering column, blah blah blah. All this shit. Well, just went through. Bang 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 bang. Ticked all the boxes. There's my cash. Went and picked it up. Oh, actually, before that, walked out of the factory, and his father said to him,
"This is a waste of money. It'll never go anywhere. You'll never finish it."
There you go. So that was a red rag to a bull because he did not get along with his father.
No,
right?
You're right.
We get along really well. He didn't get along with his father at all. His father, oh, look.
Let's not go down that road, eh?
Yeah, they say you shouldn't say things about people, and even though he's blood, yeah, well. Again, as I said with the big green Dodge, we all have people in our families, don't we? Anyway, that was a red rag to a bull. He picked this car up. His uncle Ron went down. Was it in the main line?
No, he had a Valiant station wagon.
There you go, Valiant station wagon, a 7x5 single axle box trailer. He put a couple of legs of timber across the side of it, sat this on top of the trailer, strapped it down, and took it from the, was it Morty Alec or Seaford?
No, Seaford, back to Bundoora.
There you go, the Seaford factory back to Bundoora. And Wal had never even pulled an engine out of a car. He'd done bits and pieces, but not really much. Put this thing in the carport at his mum and dad's house in Botanic Court, Bundoora, and turned this into a driving car with a bit of help from his brother here and there, but by himself in 12 months. So this car hit the road. This car hit the road January 31, 1969.
Yes.
Yeah, it was originally registered KDY 674. It was light blue originally, a whole HT Holden Mirage blue. And I think it's actually inside. There you go. There it is. There's the original blue. Still inside the doors. He drove this. He's actually was a founding member of the Bowl Car Club. There was a letter sent out by a guy by the name of Bill Griffiths who got a hold of a list of owners that had bought kits from the Bowl brothers from the factory, and he sent a letter out saying, "I'm going to form a car club." Walt went along. Bill was nominated as member number 1 because he kicked the idea off, and the rest of them pulled numbers out of a hat. And you were member number 7. There you go, folks. Member number 7. So he's owned this car ever since. One of very, very, very few one-owner Bolwells. He drove this car on the road. It was your only car for a while too, wasn't it?
Yes, it was for a long time.
It was for a long time. It was his only car. He put a 161 Holden 6 in it. He didn't have the money for a 186 or anything like that, what everybody else did. They also put Triumph 2000 gearboxes in him. He didn't have the money for that. He put an Opel box in it, and everybody's going to go, "Oh, don't put an Opel box in it." What everybody seemed to forget was you put an Opel box behind a half-decent 186 in a car that weighed 1.5 tonne, you blow them up. You put them in behind you put them in a Bolwell with a 161 in it that weighed, what, 800 kilo?
About 800 kilos.
You never killed it, right? You couldn't kill the thing, right? So it had an Opel box in it, whatever else. He raced this car with the car club and did all sorts of stuff in it. They went to Adelaide in it one weekend. Now, we all know Melbourne to Adelaide's about 900k. Do the maths on this, folks. Okay. He left Melbourne, picked a guy up at his house in the northern suburbs of Melbourne at 12:30 in the afternoon, and they were sitting on the steps of the Adelaide GPO eating a pie floater at 7 o'clock. 6.5 hours to do 900 Ks in about 1970. So figure it out. One of the guys on the trip was a copper, and the guy who was a copper said, "Do as I do, follow me." Him and his mates went, "Yep, sweet." What town did you drive down? What town?
Stall, 60 mile an hour.
There you go.
Main Street.
The stall was advertised at 35 mile an hour, which is 60 kilometres an hour. That is 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometres an hour down the main street of Stall. That'll tell you, okay?
That's not the only town we did it in.
And there you go. That was not the only town. They probably did it all the way through. 900 Ks in 6.5 hours. I can guarantee there's not the only town they did it in. He remembers driving along in this thing and looking across, and he had a guy with the passenger seat with him, and the guy going past as all the fence posts. Oh, the guy thought it was fence posts. Going past him, they weren't fence posts, they were telegraph poles. That'll tell you how close he thought they were. He, while also thought he'd see how this thing went one day, he had family lived down in Dramana. Those of you know Boundary Road, Dramana, nice straight flat road, 124 mile an hour in this thing. In 1970, 1971? 1971. There you go. 1971, 124 mile an hour, Boundary Road, Dramana. Thankfully, those days, unrestricted speed limits, because you would have gone rush shit houses these days. Anyway, he's racing this car quite extensively. The Bowl Car Club had a race team. They did the Winton 6 hour a few times. They came third in it about 70, 71. But in that race, this thing developed a weird noise. Every time it hit the brakes, it had this weird metallic rattling noise in the front of it. Brought into the pits, opened the bonnet, and all the tips had gone off the fan blade on it, and the fan had been hitting the cross member in front of the fan. They went, "What the hell's going on here?" And then I looked down, and they realised that Bolwell's wonderful engineering had resulted in broken engine mounts, and every time he hit the brakes, the engine was going like that. Bouncing. I think that was stopping it going any further forward was the fan bouncing off the cross member. So he went, "Oh, where is he? Scratch head. How do I fix this?" So he took it home and looked at it and went, "Oh, I can build this better. Oh, I can build that better. I can do that better." Before he knew it, it was all pulled apart. It was body off chassis, and went, "Oh, scratch head. Okay, let's build a space frame for this. Oh, hang on, I don't like this suspension. Let's build all new suspension for it." So it's got all totally bespoke, handmade space frame chassis, front suspension, rear suspension, blah, blah, blah.
Wishbones, you know.
There you go, crossmember, wishbones, everything. It's got every goddamn thing on it has been modified, made, and all 90% of it built on that bench, not in this garage, in that bench there, all handmade. But one of the things he decided to do was when he built it was, I'm not interested in this 6-cylinder shit. I want to make it go, but I want to put a V8 in it, but I don't want to put any weight in it. So he put that in it, which is a Leyland P76 V8, 269 cubic inches. There is, I believe, a Nagari up in the Blue Mountains somewhere with a P76 in it, but this one was the first. I don't care what anybody says. This was the first Bolwell with a P76 in it. It's a pretty well standard P76, but in a car that now weighs 1,300 weight, which is about 700 kilo, because they're, 140 pound lighter than a Holden or something?
120 pound lighter than a red Holden 6.
There you go, 120 pound lighter, which is what, about 50 kilo?
About 50 kilos, yeah.
50 kilo lighter than a red Holden 6-cylinder. You don't really need to do too much to them to get them to go, right, do you? So anyway, so that was 1977. This thing got parked for a while, and pulled all apart and went, I can do this, I can do that, whatever else, and built this car. Spent about 3 years on it, 4 years.
No, 18 months.
Oh, there you go. It was even less than I thought. There you go. Then us kids starting to grow up, and then they decided to do a house renovation, their old house they lived at, whatever. And this thing sort of got shelved for a while. Then 1998 came around, and I'd been racing for a while, and decided he wanted to go out and have a go. So we did a heap of work on this car. We did shit tons in the space of about 8 weeks on this car. Hence this horrible fucking green. This is air grey green. It's the colour they use, I believe, they did use on fighter aircraft in wheel wells and shit. It was the only colour we had floating around in a can that was enough to paint the car. And in all honesty, I wish I'd gone to Bunnings and just bought some bloody random blue and stuck it in the friggin' can, because this has got to be the worst fucking goddamn colour ever put on a car in its life. And yes, the bodywork is shit. All right, don't everybody sit there and say, oh, it's this and it's that and it's the next thing, because you know what? This car was always a work in progress, and we just did what we had to do to get it put back together so we could go out and run it at a race meeting, a club sprint meeting, and do some testing on it. This car went to Phillip Island, probably not the greatest track to test at, I suppose. He's coming onto the front straight in it, giving it a bit of a bootful. And when he got under, if anybody knows the Phillip Island racetrack, got underneath the bridge there, sort of, where the bridge is there across the track, and it got a big gust of wind underneath the front of it on the onshore breeze. And every lap it was picking the front of it up, and it was moving it the whole width of the track from the left to the right. Wall decided, I think I might just take it a bit easy with this car. And he was backing off as that happened, and we worked it out off the speedo. It was doing 140 mile an hour when it was happening. So, yeah. There's one thing we'll touch on too. To get that thing in that hole to sit low enough, you can't put a sump on it. So you dry sump it and you put the tank in where the passenger's feet goes. You would not get that through any form of bloody inspections or anything these days, but in the 1970s, nobody really gave a rat's ass. So that's actually the sump. That's the dry sump tank. Anyway, so this car ran around at a race meeting in 1998, came back and was parked. Business took over. He started a business. We ran a business, quite a successful business for about 15 years or so. Then they decided when he retired, they're going to renovate the old house and build the big fancy new house where they live now at Phillip Island. So then it came down here and it's sat ever since. And then they had the 50th anniversary for Nagari at Phillip Island at the racetrack in 2019. So we cleaned it up, whatever, took it down there, put it on display, came back, it's parked ever since. So this one we're sort of thinking might be candidate number 2 or 3 after the Dodge, because there are other cars over here underneath that cover. There's actually a Bellet in there. There's actually a factory black Bellet sedan sitting over there, one of 5 imported into Australia. Another really rare car. And so we don't know where we're going to go to that or this. We don't know yet. But this, again, is another candidate that we're going to finish. And it is going to end up being a really, really nice car again in blue. It's going back to Mirage Blue. And it will have all the nice bits and pieces done on it. We're thinking the Holly might come off it. We might put some side draft Webers on it, on a butterfly manifold to try and get that down a bit lower, that we don't have to have this dirty, great bonnet hump on it. But yeah, so very, very basically, folks, 1960, we call it a 67, 68. You got it in 67, but hit the road, but you picked it up 68 and hit the road 69. What's it registered as?
January 60.
Yeah, but is it registered as a year? There you go, folks. That's when it came off the road. There you go. An original 1972 reg label. So it doesn't actually say what year it is. It just says Bowler. It doesn't actually say what year it is. 67, 68, whatever you want to call it. Mark 7 Bowl. We think it's about body number 120. They built about 400 of them. They reckon that less than half of them ever hit the road. There was 2 sets of moulds that for Bolwell bodies. There was an early set of moulds, late set of moulds. This is one of the last ones to come out of the moulds. I read of the original mould, and the original mould was not great. They had problems with the windscreen. The guards were all screwed on them and whatever. Easiest way to tell, and I've learnt this recently, the easiest way to tell is the early mould had that surround on the number plate. The late one never had it. It was just completely smooth. So this is one of the very last ones to come out of the original mould. Around body number 120, we think. So there you go, folks. I won't bang on any more about it. Here's Mark 7. Probably one of the most highly modified Mark 7s around, especially from the early mid 70s. Everything is bespoke. Everything is handmade. Everything is totally custom made. And this thing is a fucking weapon. With a P76 in it, 140 mile an hour, fighting all over the road. Oh, and by the way, at the time it had 30-year-old tyres on it too. Yeah, she's a bit of a beast, this one. So, bit of luck. It'll be out again soon. So bye, Wal.
Bye now. Bye.
I was waiting for him to say. There you go, folks. I told you he was a dickhead before. I said say bye, Wal, and he said bye now. So I'll just start calling him now.
Now. Bye now.
Now. Bye, Wal.
Goodbye.
Stay dull.